Some members of Nancy Pelosi's own party are vowing to derail the minority leader's bid to become House Speaker again. 16 Democrats signed a letter saying they'll vote against Pelosi. They called the Congresswoman, quote, a figure in the party, but go on to write, in part, we believe more strongly than ever that the time has come for new leadership. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe has the latest.
Nancy Pelosi's bid for House Speaker suffered a setback today as 16 members of her own party said they don't want her to be their next leader. In a letter, they said they're thankful to Leader Pelosi for her years of service, but argued, we promised to change the status quo, and we intend to deliver on that promise.
We now know Pelosi would become Speaker of the House, easily winning her election against her Republican challenger with 80% of the votes. Ever since, she's been maybe the most vocal opponent of President Trump, even making the rare decision to launch an impeachment proceeding. Therefore, it's no surprise that Republicans in the district are upset with their representative, but one woman is looking to do something about it.
I'm Deanna Lorraine, and I'm running in California's 12th district against Nancy Pelosi. Join me on my journey for God, country, and family. I recently decided to run against Nancy Pelosi because I'm outraged over the way that she's been treating American citizens and American families. We need to bring our families back together. We need to bring America back together. And the way that she's been running her own district is the way that she will be running America. We can't have that. I want America to be strong. I want America to be prosperous. And I want to make America great again. One of the biggest things I'll be focusing on is a strong and sensible immigration system, because it is the moral and compassionate thing to have a common sense immigration system and a big, beautiful wall. This is the America that we want. These are the values that we want. This is the destiny we want, and we want to remain a sovereign nation. In order to remain a sovereign nation, we've got to have laws, and we've got to have a wall. The other thing I'll be focusing on is repairing the family unit and the institute of marriage, because strong families create strong America.
While her campaign does focus on issues taking place on the national level, such as her support of President Trump and her opposition to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, that's not exclusively the case. A big part of Lorraine's strategy is to highlight some of the problems that are taking place in the city of San Francisco. It's one thing to point the finger at a problem, anyone can do that, but to do something about that problem is another story. And that's something Lorraine has demonstrated that she can do. She's helped organize and participate in an event called Clean Up San Francisco, where volunteers take to the streets and, you guessed it, to clean up their hometown.
You know what we need to do? We need to actually roll up our sleeves and deal with head-on the real problems that real Americans are dealing with and actually get to work and fix them. What we're going to do is we're going to be cleaning up the streets. Cleaning up the streets, cleaning up all this garbage. There's a lot of homeless around here. There's tents. People actually live here. There's rats. There's so much filth. And we actually need to clean up the streets because cleanliness is close to godliness, right? So we actually have to clean the streets. That's what we're doing today. And I'm someone who's actually wanting to get my hands dirty, roll up my sleeves, and fix the problems that real Americans are dealing with.
As we explained, a challenge against House Speaker Pelosi in this district is going to be an uphill battle. If Lorraine is going to have a shot, she's going to have to capitalize on the moment, connect with people in the community, both things that she's already demonstrated she can do. Joining me now from California, Republican candidate for the state's 12th congressional district, Deanna Lorraine. Deanna, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. So we just kind of highlighted the obstacles that you're going to face moving forward. It's going to be an uphill battle. As we said, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is very much so a dynamic force in the Democratic Party. Explain to me and our viewers why you're running for Congress in 2020.
Well, first of all, should the position still be called Speaker of the House when the individual cannot coherently speak? I don't know. I'm running for Congress because I am so frustrated with the direction of the country, and I'm so frustrated with President Trump being one of the best presidents in history, certainly the best president in my lifetime, but he's being totally hijacked by the left. And the left is becoming more and more communist. They're trying to turn our country into a socialist country, which it will never be. And I want the country that I grew up in as a kid and that my grandparents grew up in. I want that America to have strong families, a strong sense of patriotism, strong morals, and really strong relationships for all of us. But we can't do that. And by the way, a very strong economy and jobs. But we can't do that if the left takes over. And if we see how the left is when they're not even in power at all, which is what this impeachment sham is all about. But if we give them an inch more of power, we're going to lose the country that we love and that veterans have fought so hard to protect. So that's why I'm running for Congress, because we need a fighter in Congress. We need people in Congress who are going to fight for our Constitution, who are going to fight for our American values and the American dream, and is going to boldly defend our president. We have too many softies in Congress, too many socialists, and too many wussies in Congress, and we just can't have that anymore. So I have to fire. San Francisco is the epitome of cultural rot in America, and I believe Nancy Pelosi is the head, the epicenter of that cultural rot, and that's why I'm fighting her.
And as we've explained, she's been in that district now. She's represented that district rather since 2013, but she's been in Congress way longer than that. So she does have a little bit of a political establishment to her. She does have a big support of maybe the more liberal-leaning voters in California. I mean, it's no surprise, I'm sure I don't have to tell you, that California is a more liberal-leaning state, if not maybe the beacon of that in the entire country. So moving forward, I know that you have obstacles ahead, whether it's fundraising. Nancy Pelosi has big donors that support her, contrary to maybe what some progressives would like to see from her, but it's the city of San Francisco as well. What are some of the obstacles that you foresee within this campaign?
Well, I've moved here. I grew up in the Bay Area, but I'm moving back here after many years to fight her toe to toe. And so, there's not as much of an establishment base that I have here. Plus, the actual sheer number of Republicans have dwindled over the years, to be honest with you. But the number of no party preference and independent voter base in San Francisco is the largest in any other county in California. And these people, and that should tell you that these people are hungry for a change, and they're actually open to someone new. So the obstacles are clearly there. Being a Republican in San Francisco is tough. People are afraid to be bold and loud and proud about conservative values here. But I see hope, and the people that are independents and non-party, no party preference, they're actually the ones that I'm courting even the most, because they're open, they want new leadership, they want someone bold, they want a conservative, and I speak to them in terms of common sense. I call myself the common sense candidate because if you read my platform, DeannaForCongress.com, I talk about issues that all Americans should be able to get behind, no matter if you're left or right. The issues that we're fighting now are not necessarily left or right. They're good and evil. They're right and wrong. Homelessness, crime, jobs, national security, the opioid crisis, strengthening the family unit. Those are things that affect all Americans. They're real American issues, not the impeachment sham, not political correctness. These are issues that all Americans are facing, and when they see those common sense issues being addressed that are affecting them, they want to get behind me. So there is hope, Alex.
And to your point, too, there are some criticisms of the House Speaker as well, not just as of recently, but dating quite a ways back. I mean, for example, she is an establishment candidate. We see a time right now where that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, we can look back to, for example, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who defeated Joe Crowley in 2018. He was also an establishment candidate, and a lot of people would say that AOC is essentially the new House Speaker. I mean, she's pushed the party so far, very far to the left. You see House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in regard to this impeachment mechanism right now. She didn't want to do impeachment initially, but she was pushed by other lawmakers. So a lot of people say that she's an establishment candidate who doesn't necessarily have the power of the party behind her the same way that she used to. So acknowledging those points too, what are you hoping to do with your campaign? I mean, we see that you are very much so working on a grassroots, ground level. I mean, the San Francisco cleanup is something that should be applauded no matter what side of the aisle you're from. What are some of the things that you look to use to your advantage this campaign cycle?
Again, I'm talking about common sense issues that everyone should be able to get behind and that are affecting everyone. So, for instance, I'm doing another cleanup, this time partnering up with Scott Pressler on February 1st in San Francisco. I'm doing a lot of these kinds of cleanups. I'm also, I just starting a San Francisco poop petition. Yeah, I know it's gross. sfpetition.com. Right now it's directing to my website, but later on this week I'm going to be introducing it formally. And everybody in San Francisco almost is affected by these species that are disappearing everywhere. Trash buildup on the streets, needles buildup from drug users and homelessness rummaging through the streets. So these are things that are truly affecting everyone and their safety. So they can get behind a candidate who's talking about this vocally and vowing to clean up the city, which is what I'm doing. The SF petition cleanup, talking about how these issues like national security and, the sanctuary cities, which I'm totally against, how those things are affecting their own families and their ability to feel safe or have their children be safe in their own backyard. Again, when I talk about them in common sense ways and say, do you believe in safety and having your children feel safe? Do you believe in a clean city free of feces and needles and trash? Do you believe in strong families in America? Do you believe in free speech? These are things, if you believe in those things, then you can get behind me and you can vote for me, because those are the things that I'm fighting for. And it shouldn't matter if you're left or right. And I've seen a lot of people coming around to that.
Yeah, it's a weird news cycle where you can use poop in a segment, but it's one that we've covered multiple times. So it's a real issue. I mean, we've gone over it a couple times, but we've been flashing your website up and down too. We have your Twitter handle as well. If anyone wants to learn more information about your campaign, they can go to that right there. Deanna for Congress. Deanna Lorraine, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And our last call tonight.